All right, I'm recording this session. We are going to do a reboot and business planning session today. This is probably going to be a lot different than any kind of business planning session you've ever done. We're not going to be sitting here like we used to in business planning sessions and talking about, okay, if you want to make 200,000, let's break it down into number of transactions and number of calls and number of leads. The reality of your goals is becoming a different person than you are today.
Yeah.
If you are operating as a different person on a daily basis, your goals will come whether they happen by the end of 2023 or not. Some of you may have seen my reel recently, but people get too hung up on setting a goal, or sometimes not even setting a goal, because they're fearful of not hitting that goal. And so they don't set a goal out of fear that they're going to let themselves down, let somebody else down, when the reality is all that matters is that we're moving towards our goals. I watched a recent podcast with Simon Sinek, who wrote quite a few great business books. He's great, has great audio books. But he really talked about how a lot of organizations miss the boat, and they're going based on, they're setting expectations based on set numbers and trackable results, instead of, are they really moving in the right direction that's going to last on a consistent basis. So if you have a team, like if you have an organization and a team that has a goal of hitting a number of transactions per year, and you fire them or you don't give them a promotion because they don't hit that goal, then you're setting the wrong parameters, because that team may never last. That team may last a year and they all hate each other and they hit their goal, but another team might be working in complete and total unison, and it might take them 3 months longer to hit that goal, which is better. You know what I mean? So first, before we get started on today's session, I really want to just start with this great video I found the other day, which I think is a great starting point for this. So I am recording this, so anybody that misses it today can watch this, but let's get started with this quick little video.
When things get crazy, make sure that you don't get crazy too. Keep your emotions in check. Stay calm. There's going to be things that go on that are out of your control. The worst thing you can do is let something that's out of your control you. Get control of yourself. Get control of your emotions. Don't get angry. Don't get frustrated. Instead, stay calm and figure out how to move forward.
So you want to ask yourself, what story do you find yourself telling? Because the more you tell the story, the more active it is within you, and the more it becomes your point of attraction. And the more it, way too strong of word, but the more it causes a belief to be powerful within you. And your powerful beliefs that are in opposition to your powerful desires are the only problem in the world that you ever have.
Your subconscious mind is extraordinarily powerful, and its job is to keep you consistent on the outside with your commands on the inside.
Burdens are what age us. They drag down our spirits. We can change the world. Just for a moment, close your eyes and connect with that part of yourself. If each one of us would practice getting in touch with the treasures within us on a daily basis, we could literally change the world.
And as Joseph Campbell said, life is a wonderful, wonderful opera, except that it hurts. So the question is, do you see it as the beautiful opera? Or do you just pay attention to the pain? You get what you focus on. If you focus on the things that are bad, they will become real. They will become exaggerated. They will begin to monopolize your thoughts. You'll see them everywhere. At the end of the day, you're going to get what you focus on. They're both true.
Many of you listening to me know what it's like to lose everything. You know what it's like to hit rock bottom. You know what it's like not to be supported. You know what it's like to be lied on. You know what it's like to experience emotional, relational, and psychological trauma. And it changes you because you don't know what you are made of until you have gone through something. Don't let the outside interference stop your growth.
Where you put your energy, where you put your Attention, where you put your focus, is going to determine what you see. And that is the most fascinating and the most important thing you have to understand about the way that your mind works. It's called the reticular activating system. Your mind is literally designed to pay attention to the things that you notice.
Rectify in yourself. Believe in yourself. Keep that faith in yourself.
Haniva completely changed
Oh, you
the
gotta
way
be
I do
kidding me.
business.
See, this is called
I'm Latasha
distraction. We're
James.
gonna talk
My
about
best piece of
distractions.
advice.
Right, and how to ignore them.
Yes.
Hi, Stacy, how are you today?
Oh, yeah. Join us.
Ignore that distraction.
We are all
How are
under the
you?
law of our own consciousness, our own thoughts, and only we attract specific experiences to us by the way we think. When you change your thinking process, then everything in your life will also change. You will be amazed and delighted to see how people, places, things, and circumstances can change. Blame is just another negative affirmation, and you do not want to waste your precious thoughts on it. Instead, learn to turn your negative affirmations around into positive ones. When you first begin to make the changeover and really pay attention to your thoughts, you will be horrified to realize how negative much of your thinking has been. So when you catch a negative thought, just think to yourself, this is an old thought, I no longer choose to think that way. Then find a positive thought to substitute for it as quickly as you can. Remember, you want to feel good as much as possible. Thoughts of bitterness, resentment, blame, and guilt make you feel miserable. And that is a habit you really want to release. Another barrier to having positive affirmations work is feeling not good enough, that you don't deserve to have good in your life. If that is your issue, then you could begin with the section on self-esteem. You could see how many of the self-esteem affirmations you can memorize and then repeat them often. It will help change that worthless feeling atmosphere you might be carrying around to one of self-esteem and self-worth. Then watch your positive affirmations material. Affirmations are solutions that will replace whatever problem you might have. Whenever you have a problem, repeat over and over, all is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this situation, only good will come, and I am safe. This simple affirmation will work miracles in your life. I would also like to suggest that you do not share your affirmations with others who may poo-poo these ideas. When you are just getting started, it is best to keep your thinking to yourself until you have achieved your desired results. Then friends will say, oh, your life is changing so much. You're so different. What have you been doing? And then you can explain. Go over this section several times until you really get the principles and can live them. Also zero in on the sections that may have the most meaning to you and practice the affirmations. And remember to make up affirmations of your own. The first affirmations for you to use right now are, I can do it.
I'll share
I
that.
can feel good about myself.
I will share that link with you guys. So if you want to
Yeah,
go
that's
further into that
wonderful.
exercise, you can. So what did you guys get out of that?
Changing habits.
Yeah. What did you
Deprogramming.
expect we'd be talking about today when we came into this business planning session, goal setting session?
I didn't expect them to hear the words with it.
Go into the future positively with a positive attitude. Don't focus on the negative.
Mhm.
Don't focus on all the bad that happened in the prior year. Focus on the good and do good going forward.
Right.
Honestly,
Don't stay stuck in the negative.
Right.
Don't stay because you're trapped. If you just keep
Right.
thinking negatively, you are trapping yourself.
Correct. And especially not beating yourself up if you didn't hit your goals for 2022.
yes. I think
Because it's important to examine the past, and we're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. But it's not going to be to beat yourself up for not hitting goals. It's going to be to examine what were the characteristics within you that may have prevented you from reaching your full potential in previous years.
So
Not-
as analysis.
It's an analysis of, different things which we'll talk about. But again, what it really comes down to is the only thing that stands in between you and your goals is you becoming a different version of yourself, a higher and better version of yourself. And we'll talk a lot about that in today's session. Did Tony or one of you online have something to say?
No,
Okay.
I was just being a smart ass.
Oh, okay, just being a smart ass.
Well, I just said that I expected you asked what we were expecting to discuss at this meeting, and I thought initially exactly what you said at the beginning that we're not going to discuss, setting the goals and how much, how many transactions. But I think the message in this video is definitely try to stay positive, because no matter what the situation is, everybody tends to jump from one negativity to the next thing, one thing to worry about, I should say, to the next thing to worry about, the next listing, the next buyer, the next bill, just always the next thing that's coming down the road. So
Right.
try not to think that way is going to be a chore.
Right. Let me jump to something I'm going to read. I'm going to read it twice, so it really sets in. Something I wrote the other day. The only thing that stands between you and your goals is who you need to become and how you need to operate on a daily basis for an extended period of time, despite all the obstacles we may face internally and externally. To become this new version of yourself, you have to have a compelling why that will battle and beat your mind and body's instincts and desires to stay in the comfort zone. In part, this is who you are today. A large part of your mind and your body have grown a comfort level with who you are today. Your creative mind wants to go somewhere else. And so your biggest battle oftentimes will not be those things out of your control, but the things from within you. You will battle this every day, but you will become a new version of yourself, one step at a time, one positive movement forward at a time. A person cannot run a marathon straight from the couch. A body in motion stays in motion, and a mind is no different. Compelling whys matched with worthy goals and a plan for becoming who you need to become is going to be our focus. Just writing out goal, number of deals, or income and breaking it down into numbers of calls and leads is all secondary. And that's the easy stuff. And that's why most goal setting trainings I've ever been in, they stay in the safety zone. They don't take you to a place you really need to go. You need to envision a new version of you and tell your story as if you were already there. To attract what you want in your life, you have to envision and affirm that you are already there and already have it. You have to shift who you are now so that your goals, wants, and desires flow to you through attraction. It's not brute force bringing things into your life that you want into your life. It's all about attraction. Before we go straight to the future, first we're going to take a deeper level look at our past and our present. They live close to our natural spirit, our inherited spirit, and in the end, unfortunate impacts of society and other individuals have left on us. That last sentence is probably most important.
Wait, can you read that again?
Yeah. We're going to self-reflect at a deep level on our past and our present. Our past and our present live very close to our natural spirits, our inherited spirits, and the unfortunate impacts society and individuals have on us. Would all of you agree that we are born perfect beings with unlimited potential?
Yes.
Yes, I think society is what impacts us.
Right, society.
And our,
Do you think that we have natural spirits within us?
yes.
Yes. Do we have inherited spirits that our parents want us to have as spirits of their own? Yes, we do. And then unfortunately, probably for a large part of our spirits, it's society driven. It's what society expects of us. It's what the world pushes on us. It's what other individuals throw on us and impress upon us, sometimes in relationships, sometimes in our family members, sometimes in our friends. There's all these outside influences that are trying to enter your spirit on a daily basis.
It's true. Yeah.
So, but it's okay. None of us are free of having any of that in our lives.
Okay.
We're all in a common place of having all of this impressed upon us from birth. So we have to be accepting of who we are today. You know, it's okay. You have to find an acceptance for however good or bad you think your life went, how many, you know, divorces or failed relationships or strained relationships or failures we've had in our life. None of that matters. We can accept that we are who we are, but we have a goal of becoming somebody different. I mean, nobody, I don't think any, I mean, how many, I don't know if many people really wake up and they say, I just want to be the same person I am for the rest of my life. You know, I would hope not. And I think, but I think there's a lot of people that avoid this kind of self-reflection and this self-work.
Because it's hard.
So they're really feel like they're going nowhere. And that's not gonna, in my opinion, hey, come on in, join us, lead to any kind of level of happiness. If you were to put a definition on happiness, what do you guys see happiness as?
Oh, it's a hard question.
What is,
Happiness is
Tracy, what
being
do you see
content.
happiness
Yeah.
as?
I want to hear from a couple of you guys.
I think being content with yourself, like, feeling that we're accomplishing the goals that we want, reaching those goals, and I think for me, burying some of the ugly stuff from the past and not ever like turning back to look at it, like accepting it as part of like who I've become from it.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, I think a simple definition is happiness is a state of mind.
Ooh.
Okay.
Happiness for me is knowing Jeffrey Hall.
Yeah. Yes.
Happiness for me is when I open up my eyes in the morning and know that I'm still alive and I'm gonna do the best I can with this next day that I have. That's happiness for me. Knowing that, and you know, knowing that I made it through all the shit from the day before.
Mhm.
That's happiness.
I think a large part of happiness is being content with, I'm happy with who I am today.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you don't want to become someone at a higher level or doing more or experiencing more in your life, but just accepting that you're okay with who you are today.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes. I
And
think
it's okay
that's
to
what I
be
was
okay.
trying
Right.
to say.
Right. And for me, and I don't know, I think part of happiness too, for me, is always feeling like I'm making some kind of progress,
Not
You know,
staying stagnant.
not staying stagnant,
Yeah.
which is a funny thing because part of our mind, I've listened to a lot about the mind, and I know Jeff has dived into this a lot deeper than I have, but I do believe that part of your mind is that natural protection part of your mind that says, no, don't go out there and press yourself. Like, just stay safe. You know, you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to, yeah, you're comfortable. Like, it's okay. You got shelter. You got a place to sleep at night. So why are you making yourself uncomfortable? You know, and I think that's just, it's nature. It's going to happen. And then there's the part of our creative mind that wants more. You know, it wants to keep pressing forward. It wants to grow. It wants to. So we have these two parts of our mind. I think that you're oftentimes battling with yourself with. That's why I think that a lot, you know, we can. I think the easiest blame we can put is on the outside world.
Yep.
I am not reaching my goals because the economy sucks. I am not reaching my goals because other people are. I got to get rid of some of the people that I'm surrounding myself with. We're pushing outwards instead of reflecting inwards.
So one of the issues that I have, I've had many thoughts about, how can I make this year better? Or how can I improve upon myself? I think for me, the biggest struggle up until just recently is I have great ideas and goals, but I don't have actionable steps, like how to get that accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the big
Okay, we'll
area.
talk about that. That's going to be part of our discussion today. So we're going to look at, anybody else have any comments about happiness?
I do.
Yes.
Okay. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. I looked it up on my phone.
Oh,
I
I like
thought that was a
that.
Google
That
answer.
is perfect.
All right. So can
I'm
you
gonna
repeat that?
True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. That makes so much sense.
It really does. That's perfectly stated. We spend
love
so
it.
much time like forecasting, thinking about, worrying, instead of just staying on today.
Correct. Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And that
Being
is-
present is a large part of what we want to talk about too, because I do think as humans, we tend to reflect on the things that didn't go right in the past and how things aren't going to go right in the future. And not enough time on just being, how can I be the best version of myself today? Doesn't mean we're going to win every day and every day is going to go the way we hope it is. No. But if we get up and you start your day, and this is where we'll talk about habits as well. As my point is, what are your starting day habits? How do you launch your day? How do you set yourself up when you wake up to have your best day you can and feel the best about yourself? Just knowing and being prepared for, yep, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to be trying to wreck my day.
Yep.
Someone's going to be trying to instill their bad attitude on me. Someone's going to be, press my buttons when I'm driving to work and they just hit their brakes and make me angry for a hot second. And in that video, they talked about, controlling your emotions. And that's a large part of controlling your day, is controlling your emotions. Recognizing the emotions that you're having and asking yourself, is this a feeling I should be holding on to? Or is this just not working in my favor? That's part of it. But before we jump into any of that, I want to, first, we're going to talk about the past. The past is important. The past is important because we have to know who we are. We are all unique individuals. We all have our own stories of what our life has been, where we started, where we are now, how do we get from point A to point C? Our families, our friends, our work histories. We are all unique individuals. And in order to know what we can say who we want to become all we want. We can say we want to become this person who's, attracting wealth like crazy, buying investment properties, closing a lot of deals, having customers that absolutely love us. We can say and build a story of who we want to become. But if we don't know and analyze and look at who we are today based on the past that we had, then we can't really know and understand the bumps in the road that are going to come, the emotions we're going to have, the thoughts that are going to enter our head that oftentimes may not be true. But they've been instilled upon us from a very early age. Since the day we were born, we are started to receive things into our lives that conditioned us to who we are today. Doesn't mean you always have to and be that person forever. No, but it might take some hard work to get rid of some of those things. So let's talk about the past first. So we're going to do an exercise. This is going to be an exercise as much as, it is like, I don't plan on doing a lot of talking. We're going to do some exercises during this, 3-hour session, and you're really going to dive into some of this stuff. So in the past, we're going to go back to the beginning. We have, as I said in this little write-up here, we have parts of our spirit that are natural to us. We have parts of our spirit that are inherited, both good and bad. And we have things that have been instilled upon us by relationships, people in our lives, societal impacts. So let's just start with our natural spirit. And first we'll work on the first two, natural spirit and inherited spirits. So this is usually early age stuff. This is my parents, thinking about my growing up. What are some of the things, the characteristics of my personality that I feel are natural, and write down natural and inherited. And I want you to really think about both the positives and the negatives. Write down some of the positives and some of the negatives for each. And I'm going to do the same exercise with you guys. So we're going to take 10, we'll take 10, just do natural and inherited positives and negatives.
Characteristics of ourselves.
Characteristics of ourselves.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna keep recording because anybody who's watching this online, you know, if you don't stay in the process and like, I know some people will be watching this on webinar and they're gonna be trying to fast forward to when I'm talking again. That is not the point of this. The point of this is to do the work. So natural, does anybody need paper?
Example.
Yeah.
What's an example of a natural? Organized?
A natural spirit.
Oh.
Like did you ever like, did you ever have in like grammar school where they gave you like awards on like your personality? So I was given the Good Spirit Award. You know what I mean? So it's one that I've always had. It's just like I don't have one of those like jump to craziness personalities. I'm pretty like naturally just good spirited.
Yeah.
I don't come across with a bad attitude. And I think that's just natural in my spirit. Some of us have natural spirits that just, I think we're born with, you know, and you can, I think, and sometimes those spirits are totally contradictory to what your parents' spirits might have been, or what they've been trying to push on you. You know, so like I have a couple things in me that my parents conditioned me for.
You think you're saying that that's the inherited part?
So the inherited would be something that your parents, that is probably not always a match with your parents. So like, okay, I'll give you one that I'm going to tell you later. My dad was an outgoing guy, but they would always say, "Oh, who's your son? Oh, his name is Tracy, he's shy."
Oh, so they labeled you.
They labeled me as shy. That wasn't a natural spirit of mine. Nobody's born shy. You know, so, you know, spirit, natural might be, you might have a hard time distinguishing whether they were natural or inherited, but write them down and we can maybe help you decide whether they were natural or inherited. Like some people are just driven for, you know, to go all the time. Other people are, you know, they're just, you know, want to move at a steadier pace. Some people are risk takers, some aren't. You know, there's people that I think in some sense, you're kind of born with certain things that are just, I don't think like having a fear of heights is necessarily just like given to you by your parents. You know what I mean? So maybe we don't get bogged down in whether it's inherited or given to us by our parents, but what are some of the positive traits that you developed at a younger age, and what are some negative? And we can ask the questions to figure out whether that's something your parents instilled upon you or you might have had naturally.
So we're writing both.
Right. Negative and positive, right? At least 3 of both. Because whether you believe it or not, these are impacting you, who you are today.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I think it's hard for me, like I'm thinking about like when I was a kid and when I was an adult and
Right?
kind of different,
Everything.
right?
They are
Like, if
different,
I think of
so-
myself as a kid, I'm not.
Past could be anything up until now. So like it could have been some ways to identify these things, and this is hard work. This is why you're probably struggling with this. Might be, what are some of the old fashioned or like sayings your parents would use? Like for me, one of my ones that my dad used, which was negative, was if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Oh.
He would say it over and over and over and over again. In fact, a lot of times if we were doing things together, he'd be like, he'd take over, be like, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Because I wasn't raking the yard right or something like that. So that's a negative one. So there could be slogans that have stuck in your mind that you don't even realize they're still stuck in your mind that are impacting you. So it might not be it might be a saying or a belief that somebody in your life pushed upon you. I think if we all look at the biggest, obviously the biggest, most impact that people can have in our lives are our parents. Could be some other relative that had a positive or a negative impact on our lives. And then in our adult life, it tends to be less so our friends, but more so relationships, good or bad relationships. They could, there could be moments that either one didn't work well for you. I don't know how, I know it's, sometimes I find it silly, but even astrology related type things, like there's some, in some sense, I do believe like the astrology, like your signs, like a lot of times you're like, read your signs. You're like, I am kind of like my sign, and sometimes you're not, but I think sometimes that there's something to that too. Like,
I think so too.
like I know with my sign, there are a lot of characteristics of my sign that I do associate with.
Yeah, what was your sign?
Libra.
I don't know anything about it. I know when I tell people what I am, they go, oh yeah, that's like so.
Mm-hmm.
This is almost people.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like, getting a little wolf.
Is everybody done?
Hey. That's fine.
There is a copy. Yep. A few more minutes. You're not going to have all the answers after today's session. This is a consistent work we need to do.
Trace, did you recently read the book, The Secret?
I have in the past.
Because it sounds like a lot of this has to do with that.
Yeah, I don't remember much of it, but like anything in life, like the more you listen, the more you read, the more parts of it that you're like, I don't know where this is, where I even remember this from, but you
Basically putting things out in the universe and making them happen.
I've always believed in the law of attraction. And,
yeah, that's what it's about.
And I think everything in life vibrates, and you're going to match with where you're vibrating at. So I do believe in all that stuff. And even if you don't fully believe it, it doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be practicing the art of it.
Right.
Because if you're begin vibrating at different levels than you do today, when you start doing this work and moving yourself forward, you can't not see better results.
Sure.
It's like they say, it's easier to explain the physical part of our beings. Like if you just go to the gym, you're not going to stand there and look at people working out. You're going to do something. if you go to the gym enough times, you're gonna see results.
I think if you go there, just watch people there, it'll rest you.
I mean, there's a reason they don't have a couch in the gym. You know, people aren't going there to sit there and watch other people working out.
Speak for yourself, Tracy.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I turn on closed caption so I can understand what Tony's saying.
Yeah, right. Can we get some captions on your voice?
Oh, yeah. Every other word comes out. That's the problem.
What did you say?
I didn't know we had Anthony Hopkins on the line with us. All right. You guys ready to chat? Okay. I'm gonna pick on you first at that. First, introduce yourself because
no one knows me.
No.
Yeah. My name's Yvette Casey. I just signed on this week. I don't even know if I'm officially onboarded yet.
yeah, I think
I may be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank
welcome.
you.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
So give us a positive and a negative. Positive first.
Okay, a positive. Can I give you one that everyone said as a negative, but I thought was a positive?
Okay, sure.
I gotta mix things up a little. Since I was young, I was always called a workaholic because whatever I did kind of obsessively, you know?
Okay.
If I was cleaning my room, it was obsessively. Once I got a little job after school, I obsessed. I brought it home. I studied it. I was a workaholic to them. But to me, I just loved working.
Okay.
So I loved having something to focus on. So to me, that was a positive and negative. They said it as a negative, especially my friends who were like, hello, can we go out? And I was like, I can't, I got to finish this report. And they were like, do you really have to finish this report? No, I really didn't, but I wanted to.
Okay.
So that was a positive and a negative.
Okay.
We'll see.
So if it's a positive and a negative, where does it negatively impact your life?
Now,
Yeah.
so I'm supposed to be making dinner, but instead I want to be sitting at the at the desk doing
Right.
some work. So
Right.
figuring out that work-life balance is more important as you become an adult and have family and kids and husband. So it becomes more important now to break that up, and not have that focus so intensely.
Right. So then if you look at it like, okay, that's both a positive and a negative in my life, and I don't want to lose that because that'll help me get towards my goals. But one of the challenges I will recognize in my progression forward will be I continue to have to take discipline action towards making sure it doesn't affect my relationships.
Exactly.
Right. So yes, they can be a negative and a positive. I had one of that too, was my work ethic was always positive for me, but there's been periods in my life where it's negatively impacted my relationships, for sure. All right,
Exactly.
perfect.
So I
Thanks.
combined
That was a
both.
great one.
Thank you.
Steve.
Yeah, I have a few, and it's pretty subjective whether or not it's positive or negative. So similar to you, that so you said one positive and one negative, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd say a positive is I'd say that I'm very observant, and I guess that's a positive, but it also comes with negatives because I tend to be more reserved. But that's because I'm more like observing my surroundings and understanding what's happening in the conversations around it. That way I have more knowledge to myself, but at the same time it causes me to be more reserved since I'm more like on the sidelines looking, and I think that stems from kind of the way I grew up, kind of like inherited things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people that I knew growing up, they were very determined, but at the same time very arrogant and stubborn. So that kind of led me to have more of an open-minded characteristic trait. And because I'm more likely to just hear everyone out and be more observant rather than be more proactive.
Yeah, it makes sense why it's also can be a negative and a positive. There's a lot of these traits that can be positive and negative at the same time. I think we have to know when they're positive and when they're negative so that we avoid the negative part. One thing like you look at it as being negative, I think that's personally, I think that's an amazing trait. Because a lot of the lack of people like skills in building relationships is being truly curious to learn about someone else. You know, someone on the other side, you might look at like, oh, that's kind of a negative, but on the other side, if someone's a complete and total extrovert and they can't like zip their mouth for 5 minutes to let the other person talk, that's probably even worse. I believe you're better off being curious and observant and asking effective questions than to be the one that's all. So that's great. Appreciate that. That's good stuff. And
say I'm organized. I have high goals. Negative. I get pissed off. I'm get irritated. I'm gonna don't see myself making progress.
okay. Ted.
That's actually long time with this, long time with Tracy. Building big circles of highs and lows, which are really frustrating. I'd rather be sitting where Jeff Hall is right now.
Yeah.
There. But so that's where my negatives fall, is just becoming down on myself. Every year sitting there saying, well, how am I going to make this last the rest of my life, the rest of my career? I've been in it for 20 years now, and I'm still saying it every year. How am I going to make this last the rest of my career? And so with that, I am motivated, but I also find this downside where I just want to crawl in a blanket and stay in bed. And on the other hand, I don't want to be going to the computer. I'm going to make dinner. I'm making the family dinner. That's what I do. It's what I've always done. That's my positive. Family man, I'm a single dad, 2 kids. I make dinner every night. I make breakfast every morning. That's what we do. And that's who I am. So I make it work. I get the goal done. This year I'm finding it a little difficult how I'm going to get there. So
Okay.
I'm sitting to hear what you all have to say, how you can get there.
Okay. Good stuff. Crystal.
What's the question?
I was thinking the same thing.
Put it to me
Give us a positive and a negative
about myself.
of your past that is sometimes affecting your present self. In a positive and a negative.
All right, so I tend to push really, really hard. I set goals for myself, and even though I achieve those goals, I want to do better. Like, I'm always setting the bar too high for myself. I grew up as a middle child, so you know, I felt like I don't know, like I didn't get the attention that, you know, the younger one was getting or the older one was getting. So I was, and I don't want to sound like I'm like, you know,
No, it's your story.
I'm gifted.
Whether it's real or not, it's your story.
Right, I'm gifted. I have high intellect. I sometimes, like my parents literally told me to downplay my intelligence because I will be intimidating people if I don't.
Oh, wow.
So I always had to keep that in the back of my head to fit in with the crowd. And some people might think like, no, well, she's kind of a dipshit or whatever, because I had to fake who I was. And I was told that was like instilled in my head, like, don't be as smart as you are, you know, and
that probably hasn't positively helped you in life.
correct. But as I got older, I'm like, you know what, I am smart enough. I'm gonna just keep doing better. The goal thing, that's on me. Like last year I set goals, and I am proud to say that by July I had killed every one of them. All right, I was so happy, but I needed to do more, you know. So I guess some people say like, oh, you know, you'll never be happy, you know, blah blah blah, and that might be true, I mean, but I feel like I'm happy, but I'm not happy if I'm not constantly going. You know, maybe it's OCD, maybe I don't know, but I'm very driven. And you know, I do it with clients, you know, I will go above and beyond for them. And I just I don't know when to turn it off.
Yeah.
I don't know when to turn it off. I have a very hard time unplugging. I'll like literally jump out of bed at night to jump on the computer because, oh shit, I forgot, you know, or, you know, or something like that. And, you know, I guess I need to learn how to turn it off.
Is that, do you feel like that is a characteristic that's solely yours, or were either your parents like that?
Well, my mom was a super like clean freak, neat freak, all that stuff, you know, I mean, OCD, I might get it from her. The intelligence, being driven, that's definitely my dad. He's crazy smart, you know. But the thing about never being good enough, I feel being a middle child, I was trying so hard to please my parents, you know, and I always, you know what I mean, how hard it is. Like I needed to please them. I needed to stand out and always, and a lot of times that backfired because a lot of times I would do things and get in trouble, you know, deliberately just to get
Do you feel like you have a challenge being happy with yourself, like regardless of what anybody else thinks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You could tell me that I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I will challenge you. That's it. Just tell me why, you know, why am I the greatest thing since, like, you know, and it's hard for me to, I don't know. I think it comes from childhood. I think it's an inherited trait, you know, that I just never felt like I was good enough.
Yeah.
But I am good enough.
You are.
And I'm smart enough, you know, and I have to stop hiding that before, you know, it's too late. You know, I mean, we're all gonna.
You may need a daily habit revolved around, you know, trying to convince yourself that you're okay, you're good.
Yeah,
You're,
it's weird.
you know, you might have to for a long period of time, because it takes a long time for these things to recondition yourself to a different belief pattern.
Yeah.
There's only two ways it happens: a long, progressive effort on a consistent daily basis, or something tragic that happens in your life. That's when they say you can, the only two times you can truly change your brain waves is if like a family member dies, or you have a near-death experience, or, you know, whatever it may be, you know, it's.
But Tracy, that's only temporary because I've had both.
Yeah.
And it only changes for a little while.
Okay.
You know, I was 2 hours from dying from sepsis years ago from a cat bite. And I'm like, oh man, I survived this. My whole life is going to change now. And you start doing things differently, and then you go back, you fall back into your old ways. You know,
I think that's true for some people.
You know, like the whole
either
thing. That's a bunch of bullshit. Because it's a new year, but you're still the same you.
Right.
Right.
You don't become the new you overnight.
No.
No, the only thing you can say on January 1st is like, I'm going to take the first step towards being a new me. It's not new year, new me.
No.
There is never a new year, new me.
No. There's always a new year, but
there's a new
never...
day, new me.
Right.
You can accept and decide that you want to have you want to take small progressive steps of becoming a better you every day. Because I think the only thing you can, you know, really.
You know, my parents did give me some really good advice growing up. They really did. I mean, they tried.
I mean, this session isn't to beat up our parents, because you know, they did the best they can.
They did.
And
yeah.
like I had this conversation with somebody, because I'll tell my couple things in a minute here, but they said to me, you know, you don't have to beat your parents up over it. They did the best they could. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean they did the best they could? Like, well, what was their upbringing? A lot of times the things that are passed down to us started several generations ago. You know, their parents did the best they could. Your parents did the best they could, and you are doing the best you can. You know, if
it's true, all your parents are obligated to do is to keep a roof over your head, feed you, love you, and get you through school.
Right.
You know,
right.
They don't have to do anything more.
Right.
If they choose to, you know, love you and, you know, do this for you and that's their choice. You know,
right.
It really is.
And someone will just remind you, I gave you life. That's.
Yeah. Well, if I put you in this world, I can take you out of it. I'm
right?
doing, you know.
Right.
But I mean,
awesome.
I think like if you just live your life like me, like my whole this year, I'm gonna continue to be me. I'm gonna continue to be driven. I'm gonna continue to be a kind person. And my dad, he always said, don't ever do anything in the dark that you wouldn't do in the light of day.
Mm.
He always told me to like that way, and you'll be good. So,
Good, I love it.
Yep.
All right, Manny,
Well, let's see.
you got very neat handwriting.
Yeah, her paper's so organized. I'm looking at it like.
Nobody can read this.
It's funny you said that. My kids just dug up some journals I wrote to them when they were babies. And I know, and I looked at it, I'm like, it's like perfectly perfect cursive. I'm like, I don't even know how to write like that anymore.
Right?
Like, who was that person? And
they don't teach that anymore.
but that's kind of what I thought of in this discussion. It's like when I reflect back to any parts of my old self, it's like a different person. Like I don't even know who she is sometimes because we've evolved so much from life. I think for me, the negatives are I get overwhelmed easily because I have so many ideas that come to me and I almost can't control them because there's so much. And that is also, I bring that into my business where I get overwhelmed and I don't know how to structure it. I don't know how to get a hold of it. That's kind of like also with OCD, and I fixate on things. I keep replaying it over in my head instead of just letting it go. I would say a positive would be I'm an empath. I'm like very caring person. I care a lot about people, and I've been told that can be a negative, so maybe I care too much. But being an empath is good and difficult at the same time. I love that I care about people, but sometimes I can feel people's pain, and it's hard to not take it as mine.
All right.
And I'm
well, when we start to move towards the present and the future, you can decide whether those are characteristics you can put some level of, because I would say don't ever lose the empath side, because that's one of the most important sides to real estate, is being curious and being empathetic with your clients and building a strong relationship. Like that's going to serve you well, as opposed to saying, Manny, I think your best bet is to just cold call a bunch of people all day long every day. And that's going to be your path to being a great real estate agent. You're going to fight that with every ounce of your being, because that's living a shallow real estate life. That's not building strong relationships with your clients. It's just getting them to a closing and moving on to the next. And that's not who you are.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize okay, it can have its negative impacts on me, but more so it's going to have a larger positive impact on me. So I need to figure out how to control the negative side of it and know when it's popping up in my life, so that I can pause and say, okay, I'm internalizing this too much.
Yeah.
And what do I need to do about it? So, but good stuff.
Good, yeah.
Perfect. All right, Dickens.
Okay.
All right.
Just think, I don't know if they were iterated or natural, like team or help. I always see myself as is, but pretty sure the fact that this was something that's been repeating over that I'm team player health since I was a kid.
A team player.
Yeah. So you've been integrating.
So what does that mean to you? Does that mean you sometimes put your own goals aside for the better of the team versus
since a kid, I will always make sure that everybody, those who that are older than me, that they all set, and even my family, I'm always the one that to patch them.
Right.
And I do it throughout my.
You're trying to make sure everybody else is okay before you're okay.
And that's the way I do it like that. Right. Sometimes I know my wife will, you take too much time with that client, you have to give them too much. I will, if my client wants to decide between 10 houses, I will wait on them to decide, and I will fight to the nail to the other agent. It's like shield my other my client. Take your time, choose, and let the other side come to me. Right. Yes, but sometimes people just want a little bit pushed to choose.
Right.
So, but also that I know is inherited, or I classify that inherited. I do things at last minute.
You what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even my Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember it like it was yesterday when one of my second grade or third grade teacher was talking to my mom. It was not a formal parent teacher meeting, but I was at a Catholic school Sunday after mass, parent gather with and I remember that woman that like it's like right yesterday. Chicken is good, but it do things at the last minute. And I heard that throughout my life. So I don't know if it's natural or if it's inherited, but I put it in inherited because I don't want to take out
Right.
don't take
those things are
myself about
Yeah, I mean, those things are sometimes hard to figure out. Is that natural? Am I naturally a procrastinator? Or was I, did I just get in that pattern in my life that became
7, 8 years old, you hear that and you hear it through
right?
We get
your school year.
We do get programmed. We
Programmed.
get severely programmed as
Yeah.
kids.
Like,
If you ever want to listen to an interesting book, it's a long listen. But Interview with the Devil is by Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. It's a very interesting listen if you don't want to read it. I listen to it when I'm driving in the car. But he talks about like his interview with the devil, and the devil talks about all the things that basically he does to make this perfect being that comes out of the womb is born into a conditioned soul that's full of limits and beliefs that are just put upon them in life. And school, he wrote this book in 1939, I think, or something like that. It didn't get released by the family for 70 years.
70?
Yeah, 70.
Wow.
And in his interview, he said that the devil even says, which is him basically playing the role as the devil, playing the role as himself. He says, you're probably not even going to publish this book out of fear of the scrutiny that you'll get for publishing this. And because he goes on to talk about how the educational system is the devil's best advocate. It conditions kids to think in a certain way, and that if you're going to be successful in life, you've got to get good. You have to score a certain level, and you have to, become, something that you might not naturally be. And he talks about how the church is also his biggest advocate. And like, think about it, in 1930, if he published a book like that, he probably would have been put up on the stakes and burned. Right? But it's an interesting book to listen to, because when you realize it was written in the 30s, and the devil is in the distractions is truly true. So
I think one thing I want to add.
Yeah.
That I just realized. I think sometimes we don't know what our natural self is because the program is so strong. For me, my mother told me my whole life I was selfish. So I always thought I was selfish, but then I would be like, am I? And it wasn't until 3 years ago that a friend of mine posted something on Facebook about empathy. I'm like, oh, what's that? And I dove into it and realized I'm not selfish.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom programmed that into my head. So it became my belief.
Yes.
Even though it's not my natural self.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate that, because that's the good stuff. That's the stuff we have to really start to recognize. Like, this was put on me as a belief, and is it true? Half the time it's probably not. I was conditioned to be shy.
Oh, right, yeah.
I was, totally.
But you're not.
No. But I've had to work through that my whole life. Especially when you're in the dating world.
Oh.
Or when you come back into the dating world at over the age of 40.
Yep.
From 20s to 40. I was like, wow, I gotta figure out how to talk to women again. And I'm like, I'm not even sure I was all that good at it when I was in my 20s.
Hard.
Right? So who online wants to share? John, you want to share?
Yeah, I will.
Oh, Tony, go first.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So positives, I'd say I'm genuinely a happy person. talk to anybody. Self-motivated. I think I have street smarts. I can read a room well, and I have empathy. My negatives, I'm short-tempered. I lack patience. Stupid people drive me crazy. And I have my emotions on my sleeve.
Yeah. Where's the emotions on his sleeve? Yeah.
So that would be it.
Good stuff. Is there any that are you felt were instilled upon you by your parents that are not necessarily true or have not served you well?
I don't think so. My parents were not I mean, I never even had a curfew, you know what I mean? Like they were not strict people by any means. It was always kind of live your life. If you do something stupid, you're gonna serve the consequences, you know?
Right. Right.
So they were always free spirited, you know. Yeah, I was never put the thumb down on me or anything like that either.
Okay, cool.
So
all right. John, you want to share?
Sure. For a positive, my parents are pretty much, my father instilled determination in me. I mean, when I didn't get something right away, he'd make me practice and go over it over and over again, and taught me to not give up and stuff. But I would say a negative thing was the controlling or lack of patience, like Tony said. Like if I would never be a teacher because I get super frustrated trying to teach somebody something I already know, and they get frustrated and don't know how to do it. And I'm sitting there, just let me do it. That's what my father used to always say, just get out of the way, I'll do it myself.
Yep.
So definitely something negative.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anything else?
Just I think I have from my mother, I got a big heart. I feel bad for people in precarious situations. Sometimes I've even labeled myself gullible, I guess.
Okay. You like gullible in the fashion, like I sometimes fail to see how the depth that some people can go to deceit and or like.
Yeah, I think it's like I just bad types of situations, and some people in those situations try to pluck your heartstrings, and I'm susceptible to having that done. At least I was.
Okay. Awesome. Susan, are you with us? Do you want to share? You'd have to unmute, I think, if you want to, Susan. Let's, Jeff.
Okay, I'm here.
You have nothing to say?
There's Susan.
Just joking with you, Jeff.
Looks like Susan is, Susan, are you tapping in now? We can't hear you. Anyway, let me go while she's trying to, because I'm never at a loss for words. However,
I was just gonna say, I thought you said you were at a loss for words.
Yeah, no, I actually was shy as a child.
You were?
Without, you know, I know we have time limitations here. We only have 3 hours, but I grew up, I'm mildly dyslexic, and what I understand about that is mild cases, you can overcome it over time, but it was a lot of effort growing up, not understanding why I couldn't get numbers the right way, or I'd misspell words, write them backwards. I still can type them backwards if I'm tired. So that orientation of having to make extra effort. The positives, and I don't really, maybe it's my age, I don't really remember being told anything as far as how I was. I mean, I was a good kid. I was always good, did the right thing. But I think what stands out, good listener, and I can certainly, what Amani said resonates with me as far as being an empath. I really value relationships, and that's all good. The negative part, if there's something negative about it, is the potential for putting in what we do, but for me, putting my needs off even the list, because I will typically put everyone else's needs before my own. And then as understanding, as compassionate and empathic I can be, then what about me? I get lost and I don't tend to my own needs. As far as the, so that was the positive ending on a negative note. The negative is I remember my mother saying things such as, and she was a very intelligent woman, and what Crystal said with a parent or parents who are considered highly intelligent and recognized as such. My mother said a couple of things like, anyone can make money. It's people, it's the smart people who learn how to keep it and do something with it. Okay, well, that makes sense. Another thing that she said was, in life, you only have to be smart enough. And based on my insecurities, I took that as, oh my God, I'm not smart at all. Maybe someday I can measure up. Maybe I can do it. And so I think what that does when you think like that is you get into that imposter syndrome of, I can present myself as being successful. I can do all these things, but I'll never be good enough because I keep raising the bar. And if I get to an accomplishment, I will self-sabotage and push the bar up like I can never reach it. I never let myself reach it. So I've been challenged with that. So that's the negative.
Okay.
All right.
Susan, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I know what the problem was.
All right,
Okay.
talk to us.
All right. My natural is giving. I think that's just a big part of me, but it's not only a positive, it can be a negative. A good example is within the past year, a friend at work, her husband had died. And for some reason, everybody at work said, why don't you go ask Susan to help you? I know she will. Well, I did. My numbers for the past year have been pretty bad because I helped her have good numbers. So I think that's a negative at times, that I don't know when to stop giving.
Yeah.
And I inherited one, the fact that I, like most people that said that, got an A in school. I was told I could get an A plus, and when I got an A plus, well, you probably could have done better, but how much better than an A plus can you get? That's where the mark is.
Right. I think that's a common for a lot of people in, this era. It probably covers a few generations if you think about it, but it's like, I think a lot of times when you look back, it wasn't I'm so proud of you, like you're amazing today. It would be like, well, that's good, but could you do better?
Right.
That was in a lot of our lives, I think. Well, it's okay, you're doing good, but you can do better. And I think it was just a mixed message of not coming out in the right fashion. Maybe they didn't know how to say it, or like, that is amazing. You should be so happy with who you are today. I hope you want to be, if you want to become even more, I know you can get there, but you're okay with who you are today.
That's awesome.
I don't think many of us have ever heard that in our lives.
I don't think I've even heard that to my own kids.
Right? And why? I mean, probably because it's just, I think from a parental standpoint, there's not many times that from one generation of parents to the next generation of parents that you have enlightening differences in how you parent. You probably improve. Like I like to pride myself on I think I did things in certain ways better than my parents did. Maybe in others, maybe not. But I think I'm doing a better job. Do I think I'm light years ahead of how I was parented as a kid? No, because I don't think that needle doesn't move very far. Really, it's just, unless you're super into this kind of stuff and this kind of work, and you work on this at home as much as you work on it in your business. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't do either, is work on these kind of activities in their personal life as much as they do in their business.
Well, that's funny you said that, because I actually made a personal plan last week, and it's the first time I've ever done that, because I realized I'm always worrying about my business.
Right.
I'm not ever worrying about like me. And I think that is huge. I never wrote it, and when I wrote it, it makes such a difference when you put it on paper too.
Right.
So now I'm like living by it.
Right.
To make those improvements or changes, whatever you want to call them. Maybe they're not
Right.
improvements. Maybe I just want to do things differently. But it's huge, like, to give yourself a plan.
Right.
Just your business, because
Totally.
the two go together.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna pause the recording here so we can break it up into 3 sessions. But before we go, I need to ask a couple questions, because I think a big thing we're gonna talk about is distractions from us becoming our getting to our purpose in life. Crystal, I'm gonna pick on you.
Oh, shit. Okay.
What distraction required you to leave being 100% present on your phone just now? Was it a client?
It was about the same distraction, and I have a witness.
On the distraction.
It was information regarding the Transformers up at Country Club Acres
Okay.
that distracted me.
Do you feel like this is a habit of yours that keeps you from sometimes being present?
Yes.
Because
Absolutely, and I apologize.
because no, I don't need an apology. All I want us to do is have some self-discovery and recognize that is my feeling the need to go listen to that right now as opposed to an hour so important? That is it more important than me being present in something that's going to help me be a better version of myself?
I'm gonna let Ted answer that question.
Yeah.
All right, so we're both going through some similar, do you think that was important?
At that second in time, and that
No,
second
you could've
time.
waited. You could have waited. I pointed to her phone, which was ringing. That's why I take Glenn. And then she said, "Oh, and when?" And I could have flipped her phone over, and she would have not known any better.
Right.
The call was coming in.
Right. So we're going to talk about these habits later. Like,
I'm also on doing the same thing. It's like I got a guy who wants to meet me at Lowe's like now, and it's
Right.
like, well, do I leave here now to go to Lowe's? Like stuff like that.
Or can it wait?
Or can it wait?
Can it wait?
Are the Transformers literally sitting up there waiting to be installed? No.
No.
Could John and Elaine have waited to hear this important news that
For
they're
an hour or
in
two?
years right now? Probably.
Right. Right. So we're going to talk about that in this session later. But creating habits to avoid the devil's work. The devil is in the distractions.
Yeah.
And so, like, in your business, one of the questions I'm going to ask you guys is, like, when you're doing important work for your business, whether it's prospecting or whatever, or just working on your business plans, working on yourself, whatever it may be, do you have the same habits you would have if you were going out to dinner with some loved one in your life? Like, when I go out with a family member or a loved one, my phone is upside down and the ringer's off.
Absolutely, you're right.
And I've had people ask me, like, are you trying to hide something? No, I'm trying to hide from all the people that are trying to distract me from where I want to be right now. So that's a habit I've created for myself. It's turning that thing upside down. I let it really affect past relationships.
No phones at dinner, right?
Right. And it's not even no phones at dinner. It's there, you know, but it's off, you know, and if like my kids were home alone and I'll flip it quick. If I don't see a text from my daughter, then I'm not looking. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what we're going to talk about. Is like the world is trying to distract us more so than ever in our lives because of these phones, because of social media too. Like going down the rabbit hole of social media, TikTok and scrolling through useless videos on TikTok for 3 hours. But I just wanted to bring that up as an example because they're traps. They're traps. For sure. So let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about the present. We'll take a 5-minute break. That's it.
Okay.
And we'll get started again.